Hello again, this is UML Operator. All right, in this episode, we're going to talk about requirements engineering. And in our last episode, we built out a blank project and created the framework for the project that we're going to deliver. And in this series, it's around a RESTful API architecture. So we need to bring in requirements because in order to solve the problems and build the solution and release the solution, we need to get the requirements. So let's get started. All right, so our focus is in this area in requirements management. If we select this, we can see that there is nothing in this package, this namespace, this folder. And so what we want to do is we're going to open that up. Here it is completely blank. We can right click here and find the package we're talking about in the browser, but it's pretty easy to see requirements management's right here. And so when we open up requirements management, we have the requirements type diagram with the tooling over on the left side. And Sparx provides you some patterns to use in order to get started. So the first one is functional. Let's drag this pattern in and just drop it. Hit yes, and it'll build out the elements. And there you go. It explains to the team what functional requirements are, comprised of course, functional requirements, business requirements, and user requirements. Let's look at non-functional requirements. I'm going to drag this one right here. We could certainly preview the pattern, this pre-made pattern for us. You can preview it just like any other pattern before it, but we want to bring that into our workspace, and there it is. So let's use pan and zoom, get a little focus on the subject, and they give you a description of what a non-functional requirement is and the type of requirements that are there. And if you look over in the toolbox here, we have functional, business, user, we have non-functional, architectural, implementation, regulatory, and security. And there are checklists that you can use, and they build these out, right? So we all know that to build a quality requirement, they should be atomic, attainable, cohesive, and everything else is in this checklist. So you can use this to ask that question on the requirements or any requirement, and then audit those that the team agrees they've achieved these objectives. But in our case, we're not starting from scratch. So we really don't need to build this namespace out to reach our requirements objectives. So what I'm going to do is I am going to delete this package because we had a previous release and we're taking the requirements that were done in that project that weren't achieved in that release, and they moved to this release. So what we're going to do is we're going to import that package they exported out into this project. Now in this series, we're not going to use the reusable asset service, RAS. We're going to assume that this project team does not have Sparx Cloud deployed, nor do they have RAS set up. If they did, it would be easier, but in this case, it doesn't. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit Control, Alt, and I for import. And we're going to browse and go to the repository in which they keep their XMI data. And this was exported out using XEA. We're going to select requirements. We're going to select open, and we're going to leave all of the defaults here. We do want to do one thing, and that is baseline package after import, right? We're not going to do not strip GUIDs. We want to maintain the global unique IDs across all projects and releases. All right. So we're going to hit import. Yes. Am I going to the right place? Yes. I'm bringing in the requirements folder. Let's see what happens. It's going through and it's using the convention the team had set up. We asked it to baseline afterwards, 0, 1. I want to say initial import, And then you could leave the date and time in if you want. I usually do. We're going to hit OK. And it is completed and baselined. All right. So let's go ahead and open this up. Well, first off, it brought in the requirements package using the naming convention this team is using, right, for this release project here. Let's open it up. And in here, they have two folders, functional and non-functional. And then they have matrices we'll get into later. And they have the navigation cells that expose what is in or under an element before any of the users actually drill down into them. In the non-functional requirements, there are no user requirements. There is one architectural requirement. There are no regulatory and there are no security requirements at this point. Let's go back to our main. And this was our navigation cell that was taking us to requirements management. Let's double click it. Well, it's broken. Why? We deleted the original package. But I want to keep the definition that we put under the cell. So I'm just going to cut that out. I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to select this. I'm going to hit Alt-G, and I'm going to find the navigation cell in the browser for requirements management, and I'm going to delete it. It is gone. Right? So what I want to do is I want to bring the requirements management diagram in as a navigation cell. And I'm not going to give it a picture at the, an icon or image at this point. I'm just going to hit OK. And I'm going to set it up just close enough to centering it. And then what I'm going to do is select the item, go over to notes, and I'm going to paste what we cut out of the previous one, so that we can carry that intelligence over for this and explain what this navigation cell is. Now, when I look at this or preview what is in this namespace or package, I can see that prior to launching it. And I can launch it from here, takes me right there, or I can just launch it from here, either way. All right, so let's continue to test what we imported in. Again, these are package image. If I double click them, they take me right to the diagram that's under the package, and we can clean this up later on. Let's look at the matrix specification for each one of these next. So if I double click on this and it opens up, it has the source for the functional requirements, but we don't have targets yet, and we'll build those in later on in the project. So what it's looking for is realization as the connector type and use that. It's looking across within this particular package or namespace. We can locate in browser right here, functional requirements. Well, we want it to be here on these functional requirements, not the old way. All right. And I hope this is making sense. So we're going to fix that right now. All right. We're going to cancel out of this. We're going to close this relationship matrix. We're going to right click on this one that's right here. We're going to go down to documentation and you see edit matrix profile, right? And we're going to select that, right? And we're going to the source, we want to change to this level, functional requirements, right? We're going to hit OK. And that's as simple as that. Now, as soon as we get a target, which is going to be our design classes that we're realizing or we're implementing from the requirements. See, we already have the type chosen. We're going to be looking for class elements. And we will select that particular namespace. We have chosen realization as the association type within this. And this will make more sense when we get there. And from target to source. So target to source. And you'll understand more of that when we get back to this matrix after we build or start our pseudocode or class elements. Let's go ahead and hit OK. There we go. We're going to go ahead and cancel because I haven't chosen. We could choose it right now. Go to model, we drill down, we go into design. We could choose this right now so that we can maintain what we've done. Let's go ahead and hit OK. Right now, when we bring this up, it has class elements is going to be the package we're looking in, target to source, and we can always come in and edit that and change that. And again, we'll talk about that later on. All right, we're going to go ahead and close this and go back to this page. We're going to do the same thing for non-functional requirements. And we're just going to look at it to get, jump ahead. It's looking at the functional requirements. We don't want that. We want it to be looking at the non-functional requirements. So you essentially do the same thing. We only have 5 requirements that are in there right now. And we'll come back to this as soon as we get to this subject area and in our design as we're drawing out our requirements. Let's go ahead and close this. And what we're going to do is we want to go to the functional requirements. We brought in a lot of requirements that were carried over from the previous project that were not implemented. We're going to go ahead and double click this to launch it and go in here. We're going to right click in here and find the package namespace within our project browser. From here, what we're going to do is we're going to right click on this and we're going to go to Specification Manager. And here is another view of that diagram using Specification Manager. So we're started, but we've got a long ways to go. Populate each one of these requirements with more details. Now we can see all of these are proposed, so we scan those. This one's interesting because it says validated, yet there is nothing in here. What did they validate? So we're able to come up here, toggle on filter and say, hey, I'm seeing validated. You're talking to the project manager and you can start asking questions about particular elements that have a particular, I want to say status, and that's what it's called, as status, but view from the stakeholders, hey, someone validated this, which stakeholder did that, right? Also, the priority is default. Everything is medium. So I, as a solution architect or an enterprise architect, I would come in and say, well, what are the priorities on these? As I'm solutioning, I want to look across these to sort out and find out, well, what's the highest priority items we need to be focusing on now to achieve a particular sprint strategy or release strategy. So Specification Manager is very powerful when it comes up. It's just another way of turn on traceability to seeing, has anybody drawn any relevance from these requirements to any other elements, model elements within the project. So let me close this and show you another way to get to Specification Manager. So what we're going to do is we're going to open back up this diagram. We're going to right click inside this diagram and you'll see Switch View. And here you can switch to any view. So we were just talking about Specification Manager. So it's a very quick way to get to Specification Manager to do your work. Another thing you can do is switch view. You can get to the relationship matrix for these particular elements. And we'll talk more about how this works and what this is in a later session. Now, Specification Manager is very important to me as an architect. So I'm going to use this way to switch to view, and we're going to go to Specification Manager. So what I'm doing in here, and I've put plenty of videos on how to develop requirements and then how to derive design and architecture from requirements. I go down through here and I'm looking for nouns and verbs in order to start getting an idea of how to do design. So web pattern, all right? We're talking about web architecture. Going down here, they keep using article. So here's an important noun around to help us understand the data in which they may be dealing with. The CRUD operations, create, read, update, delete. Search, I'm seeing a lot of verbs that are in here. I'm even seeing references to architecture that are in here. Need to implement an ORM, which we'll talk about. So here I'm able to get an idea before they even are completed or done with the requirements of what the architecture, nouns and verbs are, what the actors are, the systems, the functions, the data that we're going to be dealing with in this design. So very important. Don't wait until the requirements are done before you start designing and building your architecture. So in our next episode, let's go ahead and Close these, close this. We're going to be talking about solution and design. And I look forward to seeing you in that one. Oh, project management, we'll talk about this separately. Project managers do their thing. There's a lot going on in this particular space, how they want to operate. They're coming out of a project right now and they're going to be reusing patterns and templates. They may be carrying over a lot from that other project. So we'll talk about that separately, but I really want to jump from requirements right into solution and design. Don't mean to be selfish, but I'm an architect. Discussions is collaboration, as we spoke about. Test management is going to be happening in an iterative manner through everything that we do. All right. So I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. And until then, happy modeling.